Okay.
Ładnie gra, co?
Ładnie. As you know, the war began in the 1st of September, 1939.
Yeah.
We used to live in the east part of Poland, which belongs to Belarus now.
Okay.
Our father was a clerk at the office. And there were 4 children. It was my brother.
Can't get both of you. Okay, keep going. Move over there. Then there's both of you in there. Keep going.
She wants you to have.
Oh.
Come here. No, you can't say I'm here.
Okay, now you're both in it.
Oh, is she there? Yes,
Yeah, she's there.
Okay. So there were 4 children of the oldest brother, which I think you've met my brother, Uncle Stan from California.
I don't remember.
No, you don't.
No, when he came here,
She was that's right. She was really grown. And then was me and another brother, Leon.
Okay.
And Tiocia Janka. So 2 of us, my brother and myself, we were in a different city altogether, and of course we were going to high school. And with Leon and Tiocia Janka were staying with the parents. When the war began, as I said, we all moved to Slonim, to the city, where our father was building a beautiful house. And the house was almost ready when Russians came to our town and took, since it was a big house in a very nice street, they took our house and turned into a post office.
Oh.
And we were living with our aunt, who was renting the house. She was wife of an army man who went to war already, and he never came back, and she died there. In probably March 1940 or February, they arrested my brother, older brother.
The Russians?
The Russians, because the Russians came.
Okay.
When the war broke out in 1st of September, the Russians occupied Poland, the East Poland, 17th of September.
Okay.
17 days later. And Poland was divided in 2 parts, German, West, and Russian, East.
Okay.
And then they started, school was going to, some reforms and so on, And
nobody expected that. Nobody. They just walked in. We were at home, and
but just a moment.
When they walked in, that's in Britain. That's in Britain.
Yes, that's right.
That's the beginning.
That's the beginning. Of course, we were there, But you are right. And they arrested my father and my brother.
And the police, the police, whatever, they arrested.
They kept him. They kept him in a big sort of like fire brigade house. They were not only clerks, there were policemen and some other people. And after a while, they were staying there for 2 weeks or longer, they let them go. So when they let them go, we escaped to Slonim, to our aunt, and we lived together with her.
We rented a small
apartment. No. At first we were living with her, together. And then we separated. And in probably it was late February, when they arrested a few students, and professors.
Okay.
A few weeks later, they came for our father. They arrested our father. Everything happened last night at 2:30 in the morning. Everything. Well, so we knew that they are in the prison. My mother was trying to give them some parcels and so on, but it was pretty hard, because they didn't accept it. And at the same time, it was shortage of food in Sweden. And since my parents had a small farm, my father wasn't working on the farm because he didn't know nothing about it, But we had a man who running the farm, and he heard that in Sweden there's a shortage of food. So the same night they came to arrest us, they arrested him. He brought us some food from the farm, and they arrested him.
Wow.
And he was in prison for quite a while, for a couple of weeks or so. They came to our place, as I said, at 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning, they knocked at the door. My mother looked through the window, and it was an officer, Russian officer, and two soldiers. They walked in, and they said, well, in Russian, that the Russian government has to search you, arrest you, and to take you away from Sweden, from the city. And my mother said, how come? What for? And she said, well, it's just because the front is coming here. So we have to evacuate it. My mother was speaking very good Russian, And my mother said, what kind of front? There's no war anymore. And she said, don't talk too much, you just do whatever we said. And start packing. And the officer left.
20 minutes to pack.
Yeah. And the officer left. And the man who stayed with us, he said, listen, whatever he told you, it's not true. You are going to Siberia. And my mother started hysterical cry. I was the oldest one, and I was supposed to pack everything, So thank goodness we had a big trunk, just a moment, trunk, yes, a big trunk, So I started taking, we had a beautiful big, oh my God, it's on the wall,
not just it's a kind of like something like
a mirror.
No, not a mirror,
something
no.
like carpet, but
Just like
rugs,
Okay.
Rug, a beautiful rug on the wall.
Yeah.
It was very, very famous, and we had a beautiful bed spread. So I took them all, and put them into the trunk.
And jewelry, whatever, just
everything. And my brother's shoes, my mother's dresses, and my father's shoes. I packed everything in there. And on the top, I put the flowers he brought them, from the farm, and some salt. Pork salt.
Pork salt.
Okay. Yes. Pork salt. Pack up everything, and we were ready to go. And they, sure enough, after 20 minutes or 30 minutes, a horse and buggy came to pick us up. They pick us up. They put us into a train, cattle train. They were called cattle train. Probably there were around 70 people in that cattle train. She was little, she doesn't remember very well, but there were a lot of people, They shut the doors, and that's it. And the very next morning, they start traveling. We were traveling like this, for 2 weeks.
There was a hole, just
Hole in the
bathroom.
Didn't your friends come or something to the train to say goodbye or something?
Oh
Yeah.
yes, oh yes.
Yeah.
The friend of mine, because we were staying there for another. So you are right,
I remember when you told me
remember
this.
when I told you we were staying there for 2 days,
In the
and
train.
they found out in the in the train.
Yeah.
And my friend found out another two we were arrested, and they came to see me to say goodbye, and to knock from one door to another, and they were knocking, and they found me, they asked the man, soldier, to let me out. He drives, and he gradually let me out, and so on. So I was staying with them for probably 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then I wanted to come back. And she said to me, listen, go, run away. I said, I can't run away. There is my mother and 2 little children. I have to go there. And she said, don't be stupid. You better run away. And I said, no, and I was just fighting with you. And then she said that she asked us to go.
Why weren't your friends arrested? Why weren't your friends arrested? Or put in the train?
No, he was not arrested.
They weren't arrested.
But
I
why?
was arrested.
But why?
Because
Probably they weren't on the list, or
there's no
whatever.
arrested.
What happened to them later, I don't know.
Okay.
But at that time, they weren't on the list.
Okay.
And high school at that time was sort of like 2 high schools at the same time. Polish people were in. They had all the lessons and so on in Polish language, and Belarus, which were Polish at that time, but they called them Belarus. They had studied in Russian language.
Okay.
They separated that. But nevertheless, they came all, to say goodbye to me, and they went back to school, and we traveled. We traveled for 2 weeks, as I said. Sometimes they opened the door, and gave us some hot water. That's all. Couple of times I remember they gave us some kind of soup, but
But there was anything in that soup, just water,
Yeah.
terrible
maybe
water.
a few potatoes or
Nothing. I
something.
remember something green was in there,
Well, but we had to eat because we were starving,
Yeah.
And it
We
was
didn't have that much.
stinky,
Terrible, especially with the hole in the floor, we had to do something because they were men, children, and infants, and older people all together, So our mothers and grandmothers, they managed, to cover that hole somehow with the blankets or whatever. So it was a little bit more privacy.
Yeah.
And then, after 2 weeks, we came to the railway station, and they started, to separate us, to a different. At that time, Russia was divided in sovkhoz and kolkhoz. Sovkhoz where the people were working for money for which you couldn't get anything because there was nothing, no stores, nothing at all.
Money was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And kolkhoz, the people were a little bit better off, because they were working for food, for vegetable and grain.
Okay.
So they were better. And they took us to sovkhoz and where to put us. They didn't have enough. They didn't have enough, houses for us. So they put us together with Iran family.
Oh.
Iranians were caught on the border for taking the stuff from Iran to